Lagos State government has approved the full resumption of church services and mosques in the state. This puts an end to the partial reopening of these worship centers, which has been going on for a couple of months now. For many of the proprietors of these churches, it has come as a welcome development and offer some relief against the backdrop of the recent resistance to a new Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA. So joining us now for a look at this is TAIWO AKINLAMI, a lawyer and a child rights advocate. Welcome to the program, TAIWO. I mean, everybody's all excited. The government of Lagos State opening up churches and mosques, and let's talk about that first. What's your read on that? And let me add cinemas too, opening. What's your read on all of that?
Well, I think that is a welcome development. The world has the right to continue while we pay attention to critical things that we need to pay attention to. So we pay attention to social distancing, we pay attention to hygiene, we pay attention to everything we need to pay attention to. The world cannot continue to buckle under the impact of the pandemic. The most important thing is that we have come to know, WHO has told us, experts have made us to understand that though this is a pandemic they're trying to understand, but it has come to stay with us for a very long time. So if it has come to stay with us for a very long time, I think it is important we begin to imagine and begin to develop processes and protocol of how to live with it without ensuring that we do not allow it spread.
But how does one go about ensuring that? What do you think ought to happen? Because it's not about opening, it's about the manner in which they open. What would you like to see ideally?
Yes, what I would like to see is that religious places of worship have to do things in order. There has to be a strict adherence to the protocol of opening and the protocol that members and leaders are supposed to abide by. You know that the Lagos State government or any government will not reopen churches loosely. These places of worship, churches, mosques, and even cinemas have been reopened with guidelines, clearly stated guidelines. For example, one of the guidelines there has to be contact tracing. Anybody who is attending a religious place of worship must register. There has to be social distancing. There has to be hygiene, provision for practice of proper hygiene. If all of these are adhered to, I believe that we are in a good place. The only challenge may be if all of these are not adhered to. If they are not adhered to, I believe that the government will watch the situation and may need to review the decision if for whatever reason there's no adherence to the protocol and we need to do the needful. The most important thing is that we cannot behave as if COVID is no more with us. COVID is here and it is real. And we have to a very large extent, we have now understood some basic things about it, the way it spread and all of that. So I think that the most important thing is for us to not forget that COVID is still with us because places are being reopened. Is to remember that these things are being reopened under certain conditions and we adhere to that strictly.
Well, TAIWO, should there be sanctions, penalties for infractions when churches, mosques, restaurants, spas, entertainment centers do not respect COVID-19 protocols and guidelines? Because in other parts of the world, we understand, in the UK, for example, people will have to pay fines up to about £3,200 if they become repeat offenders. And then quickly, what are your thoughts on the controversy around CAMA, Companies and Allied Matters Act, Section 839, subsections 1 and 2, relating to NGOs and places of religious worship? Okay,
first, if there are guidelines and there are no sanctions, they are useless. For guidelines to be respected, for protocol to be respected, they have to come with sanctions. And government cannot afford to be biased or to be prejudiced in giving expression to all of those guidelines. So there has to be guidelines, there has to be consequences, because we are talking about coexisting with a particular pandemic that is deadly, that is virulent, that is ruthless. There has to be sanctions. So if organizations are not able to live up to the protocol and the guidelines, it means that they are not ready to reopen. For proper sanctions should be in place, and those sanctions should be enforced irrespective of whose ox is gorged. There should be no sacred cow at any level. And I want to believe that, organizations, religious bodies and all of that, churches, mosques and restaurants and all of that, I want to believe they will be responsible enough to live up to those guidelines and protocol. Now, as to Kama, I have done a lot of work in looking at Kama. I have been within the corporate governance circle of religious places of worship and generally NGO in the last 5 years, something I've taken interest in. I've looked at measures that government is taking to regulate all of these places. Now, when you look at Section 839, subsection 1 and subsection 2, which gives powers to the Registrar General of CAC to suspend NGOs trustees. When you look at first Section 839 and Section 8391, 8392, they seem to be at variance with each other. Now, if you draft a law, the law in itself should be able to interpret itself without creating any form of confusion. Now, when you read that law, you may want to think that Section 8391 is the power of the Registrar General, and Section 8392 is how that power is carried out through the court. But the law does not say so. Many people have argued like that. I just think that interpretation is simply interpretation for that Christmas. The law does not say so. I've been at fora where are you with me? Are you hearing me?
Yes, clearly.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
I've been at fora where I've been at fora with the Registrar General where he has tried to defend what the government is trying to do, to say that there will still be other guidelines to explain Section 8391 and Section 8392. As a lawyer who have been one in the last 21 years, I find that very, very amusing, that very, very funny, and that very, very mysterious. You cannot develop a law. In a law, there will be interpretation sections. In a law, there will be what we call schedules that explain everything within the law. Now, when you do not do that, when you promulgate a law, the power of the Registrar General is not clear. But the way it ought to be read is that the Registrar General can suspend, can remove, and can do all of that. And I want you to also look at Section 842. So Section 842, 844. Now, you know that in that section, it talks about an account that is dormant. If an association is running an account that is dormant, that such association, when the account becomes dormant, such association will be reported by the bank to the Registrar General or to CAC, and when that report comes to the CAC will write to the organization that within 15 days they must explain why the account is dormant. But you see, when you look at the CBN regulations, what it means for an account to be dormant is that there's no deposit and there's no withdrawal. But under this law, which I consider to be very draconian, says that dormant account shall be an account to which you did not withdraw from. So which means if you are paying into an account and you are not withdrawing from the account, within a period of time, that account is going to become dormant. I wonder why that law has not limited itself to the provisions of the central bank, which is the regulatory body when it comes to matters that have to do with banking and the rest of that. Another issue is that if you look at Section 76 of the Charities Act of England and Wales, what Section 839 is a copy of Section 776 of Charities Act of England and Wales. That is a copy. Now, when you look at what that law provides, you will see that that entire Charities Act was first promulgated in 1601. That law is 400 years old and above. That law has 385 sections and 11 schedules, which explains everything that has to do with charities in the UK. But this law, this Kama that you have amended, has patchy 28 sections. And at the end of the day, it only states what organizations will do. It does not say what government will do. So if you want to copy the UK, Charities Act in the UK, copy it holistically. The Charities Act in the UK also created the Charities Commission.
On that note,
Also created the Charities Commission.
Yeah, point well made, but what is certain is that religious leaders and the Christian Association of Nigeria and others have appealed to the government to take a second look at that particular piece of legislation.